Lesson 18. We have known each other for some time now through the medium of this course. Perhaps we should pause a while to take stock of our position and look about us and think of what we have read and presumably what we have learned. It is essential to stop every so often for the purpose of recreation. Do you ever think that recreation is really recreation? We mentioned this point because it is all tied in with tiredness. If one becomes tired, one cannot do one's best work. Do you know what happens when you get tired? We do not have to have great knowledge of physiology in order to understand why we get stiff and sore if we overtax a muscle. Let us consider that we have been repeating a certain action, perhaps lifting a heavy weight with the right arm. Well, after a time, the muscle of the right arm begin to pain us. We get a most peculiar sensation in the muscle, and if we continue too long, we suffer real pain instead of just soreness. We should look into this even closer. During this course, it is it has been stressed that all life is electrical in origin. Whenever we think, we generate an electric current. Whenever we move a finger, even we send an electric current in the form of a nerve impulse, which galvanizes a muscle into action. But let us consider our arm, which we have abused with overwork. We have been lifting something too often for too long, and the nerves which carry the electric current from the brain have become overstressed. In much the same way, if we get an ordinary house fuse and you overload it, the fuse may not immediately blow out. Instead, it will show evidence of overload in that it becomes discolored. So, with our nerves leading to muscles, they become overstressed with the passage of continuous current, and the muscles themselves get tired of expanding and contracting continuously. Why do they get tired? That is easy to answer. When we move a limb, our muscles become stimulated from the brain. The electric current causes secretions to flow in the muscular structure, which causes the strands of muscles to strain apart. So that if you get a whole strand or collection of strands straining apart, the result is to decrease the total length, and that means a limb had to bend. That is all right. We are not going into physiology, but a secondary result is that the chemicals involved in causing the striations of muscles to strain apart becomes crystallized and embedded in the tissue. Thus, it is that if we send these secretions, these chemicals into the um, musculature more quickly than the tissue can absorb them. The result will be crystals, and those crystals having very sharp edges will cause considerable pain if we persist in our attempts to move the muscles. We can only wait perhaps a day or 2 days until the crystals have again been absorbed and the fibers of the muscles are again free to slide smoothly and effortlessly over each other. It is worth noting in passing that when one has rheumatism, one has crystals in various susceptible portions of the body which lock tissue together. Actually, any person with rheumatism can move the afflicted limb, but to do so would cause intense pain because of the crystals lodged in the tissue. If we could find some way of dissolving the crystals, then we should be able to cure rheumatism, but that is not it. This is rather taking us away, though, from our original intention to consider some of the things we have learned, or on second thoughts. Perhaps it is not. If you are trying too hard, you will not get anywhere because your brain will become overtired. Many people cannot adapt the middle way because they have been brought up to believe that only the hardest metis results. People strive and slab, and they get nowhere because they are sometimes overtrying. Sometimes people who try so hard become overtired, and then they say horrible things because quite literally they are not in possession of their full senses. When we become tired, the electric current produced in the brain fades, it becomes less, and so the negative electricity overrides the positive impulses, making us bad tempered. Bad temper is the opposite of good temper. It is negative aspect of good temper. And if we let ourselves get bad tempered through overtiredness or through any other cause, it means that we are in effect corroding cells which produce current within us. Do you drive a car? Do you ever look at battery of your car? If you do, you will at times have seen a most unpleasant greenish deposit around one of the terminals of the battery. In that in time, it will eat away the wires leading from the battery of the car itself. In much the same way, if we neglect ourselves as we had neglected that battery, we find that our own ability becomes seriously impaired, and we then have a pattern of bad temper. Sometimes it will be a wife who started out her married life full of the best intentions will give way to a little nagging doubt about her husband. She will voice those doubts, and by repeating those doubts a few times, she will establish a habit, and thus, possibly without knowing anything about it, she will turn into a nagging shrew of a housewife, one of the most unpleasant creatures of this world. Keep good tempered. You will keep better health. Do not go in for these slimming fats because the well padded person is invariably better tempered than the skinny wreck who totters around with almost a rattle of bones. This matter of the middle way, it is clear that one should do one's best under all circumstances. It is equally clear that one cannot do more than one's best, and effort beyond one's best is merely lost effort, which needlessly tires one out. Look upon it as one would a generating station. We have an electric generating station which is providing light for a certain number of lamps. If the generator runs at such speed or provides such an output that the needs of the lamps are easily fulfilled, then the generator is working well within. its capacity. But if for some reason the generator is speeded up and the output is far greater than can be absorbed by the lamps, all the excess output has to be shunted off somewhere wasted, and it also wastes the life of the generator, which is running too fast needlessly. Another way to put it, it is this: you have a car and you want to go along the highway at perhaps 30 miles an hour. Most people want to go a lot faster than that, but 30 miles an hour is good enough for our illustration. If you are sensible driver, you will be in top gear just rolling along at 30 miles an hour with the engine rotating quite slowly. At that speed, there will be very little wear and no strain at all on the engine, which is working well within its capacity. But supposing you are not such a good driver and you charge along the highway in the lowest gear at 30 miles an hour, then the engine may vary, may be going 5 or 6 times faster because of the gearing, and the engine will be putting out perhaps as much power, as much effort as it would need to do 100 miles an hour in top gear. So you get a lot of noise, a terrific petrol consumption, and 5 or 6 times as much wear to accomplish the same aim as you would do in top gear. The middle way then means talking the sensible course, working just as hard as necessary to accomplish a specific task, but not frittering away your life and your energy in overworking. Too many people think that they have to work and work and work, and the harder they work to accomplish an objective, the more merit accrues to them. Nothing would be further from the case. One should always, we cannot repeat it too often, work only hard enough to do the task in the hand. But let us get back to recreation. Recreation, as we have said, is recreation. If we tire ourselves, it means that only certain muscles, only certain areas of the body have become tired. If, for instance, we have been lifting our right arm too much, perhaps shifting bricks, perhaps shifting books, then the arm will begin to tire, will begin to ache, but our legs are still in working order, as are our ears or eyes. So let us recreate ourselves by going for a walk, by listening to good music, or by reading a book. In doing so, we shall be using other nerves and other muscles, and we shall actually be drawing off any surplus charge of neural electricity from the muscles which have been overstressed and now need to relax. So, in recreation, you recreate yourself and your abilities. Have you been working trying to see quite hard, trying to see your aura, trying to see the etheric? Perhaps you have been trying too hard. If you have not had the success which you desire, do not be disheartened. It takes time and patience and quite a lot of faith, but it can be done. You are trying to do something which you have not done before, and you would not expect to become a doctor or a lawyer or just are a great artist overnight. You would expect that if you were to become a lawyer, You would have to go to school, then to high school, and on to some university. It would take time. It might take years. You would be working conscientiously for many hours each day, and perhaps many hours each night to attain your objective of being what? A doctor, a lawyer, a stockbroker. It all boils down to this. You cannot achieve results overnight. Many of the Indian philosophies tell one that under no circumstances should one try to see clairvoyantly in less than 10 years. We do not subscribe to that view at all. We believe that when a person is ready to see clairvoyantly, then they will see clairvoyantly, but we do subscribe to the view that one cannot attain results overnight. You have to work for what you are going to get. You have to practice. You have to work for what you are going to get. You have to practice. You have to have faith. If you are studying to be a doctor, then you have faith in your teachers. You have faith in yourself. You do your lesson work in class. You do your homework when out of class. And still to train to be a doctor takes years. When you are studying with us and trying to see the aura, how long do you study? 2 hours a week? 4 hours a week? Well, however long it is, you are not studying 8 hours a day and doing homework as well. So have patience, because the aura can definitely be seen and will be seen if you have that patience and faith. We, throughout the years, have had a tremendous amount of correspondence from people all over the world, even from people behind the Iron Curtain. There is a young girl in Australia with marked powers of clairvoyance. She had to hide her abilities because her relations think that there is something peculiar about her if she says that she knows what they are thinking, or if she can discuss the state of their health. There is another lady in Toronto, Canada, who in a period of just few weeks can see the etheric. She can see the etheric power streaming from fingertips, and she can see the lotus flower waving on the top of her head. Her progress has been quite marked. She can see the etheric almost in its entirely, and we understand that she is now beginning to see the aura. She is one of the fortunate ones who can see nature spirits and the aura of the flowers. As an artist, she has been able to paint flowers with the aura around them to show you that clairvoyant powers are not limited to any locality but are universal to the world. We are going to quote a letter from a very talented lady in Yugoslavia. There, we wrote to this lady and told her that we would like to incorporate within this course something of her experience. And so he wrote us a letter giving us permission to quote from it. Here is what she writes. We have altered the English very slightly to make it easier for people to follow. Here it is. Dearest friends, in other parts of the world, we really live in a time which asks us day by day to be or not to be. The time is over to sit like a cat behind the stove. The life as well as the eternity puts before us the question yes or no. What yes or no do we mean? We mean, shall we starve our soul and make our body ill, or feed our soul and make our body healthy, beautiful, and in harmony? Why I always speak about the soul, something we cannot see, what the surgeons cannot take out and present to us on a plate. Dearest friends, if you believe in the existence of the soul or not, the soul is there. Have you a moment of time to spare, please? Do not turn to the cinema, not to the football match, not go to shopping or to a motor car. Listen for a moment, for this is a very important matter indeed. In the western part of the world, part of our earth, we have not very many people who can see the so called invisible world, who can see the auras of people. That means the light or the shadow. If there is a light or a very earthbound soul around the body and easily around the head of a person, the soul is the eternal, undisturbable part of us. It is our higher body, or without it, we could not exist. I had the gift to see auras from my earliest days. When I was a little child, I thought that all people could see what I could see. Later, when they called me a liar or declared me insane, I understood that other people could not see what I saw. Let me point out the way that I follow. Have you ever noticed the lines around the wood in the inner Have you ever noticed the lines around the wood in the inner part of a tree? It indicates the years during which the tree has lived. You can tell of the lean years and of the fruitful years. Nothing at all remains without signs. Nothing. I once stood before an old church and saw what other people could not see on the earth. Around the building was a wonderful light. Around this light, following the form of the building, were fine lines as in the wood. I looked over the lines and told the people around about them. It was a line for every century exactly. It was at the old church of Remit near Zagreb, the capital of Croatia. From that time, I was able to tell the lines around the old buildings and to say how old they were. Once a friend asked me, "How old is this chapel?" "I see nothing," I answered. "Not a line around it, only a light." "All right," she said. "This chapel is not 100 year old yet. You see, if a building has its soul, how much more has something living? I can see the aura of the wood, of the trees and the meadows, the flowers, and especially after sunset, this mild but intense light around all living creatures, around your dog as well as around your cat. Do you see the little bird there singing its evening song? How sprays of light are around the little bird. its soul flickering with happiness, but also that little bird, a boy came and shot it down. The little aura flickered still a moment and then vanished. It was like a cry through nature. I saw it, felt it, and I talked about it, and they called me a fool. When I was 18 years of age, I stood before a mirror one day. It was nightfall, and I was preparing to go to bed. The room was nearly dark. I was in a long white nightgown. All at once, I saw a light in the mirror. It attracted me. I looked up and saw around me a blue and then a golden flame. Not knowing about the aura, I was frightened and I ran down to my parents screaming, I am burning. It hurt me not at all. But was it? But what was it? They gasped at me and then turned the light on, during which time they saw nothing. But they turned the light off and then they saw me as a living golden flames. Our servant came in and screamed with fright. She turned and ran away. I remembered then what I had seen on other beings, but it was rather different when I saw it on myself. Now I was really frightened. My father turned the light out and on, and it was always the same. When the light was out, I glowed with the golden light. When the room light was on, my glow could not be so clearly seen. I found all this interesting when I felt sure that I was not being harmed at all. And then on, I took very great interest in looking at the aura of other people. Do you know what fear means? In war, I often was very frightened seeing the aura of my fellow men when the bombers went over us and the bombs fell down. Once, when I was in a prison under the Nazi regime, I was in a cell condemned to death. I was taken to the torture chamber because I had certain information which my creepers wanted. I saw the aura of the people who were being tortured. It was terrible, so narrow round the body, so poor and without real light, nearly vanishing, nearly dying away. And worse still, when I heard the cries of agony, dying of torture, the aura itself flickered. Something rose in me. However, something of a holy force was there, not written in the holy scriptures. Fear only those who kill the soul, but not those who kill the body. I began to concentrate and to try and cheer up the others. I felt healthier. Another woman helped me in this task, and at last this cell containing those condemned to death began to be more cheerful. We all began to sing. I came through all questionings and all the long hours and all the pain unharmed because I concentrated on eternity. I concentrated on the real life after this awful dream. The tortures could do nothing with me, and at last, angry, they threw me out of the prison because I was demoralizing them. If I had given way to fright, to terror, I and my 16 comrades, victims of um, persecution, would have been killed. We of the West, we Europeans, have much to learn from the Far East. We have to learn to conquer our imaginations and to overcome fear. As I see it, the aura of Western people flicker a lot. They are never quite, seldom in harmony, and our disorderly aura infects other auras and become like an epidemic. Hitler would not have succeeded with his ranting speechless unless the aura of people became afflicted and influenced by the aura of Hitler. Hitler could only succeed because his listeners could not control their own imagination. Are you tired? Will you read a little longer? Let us go to the poorest man, to the uh, lunatics. Let us go to a mental home in Zagreb. Many days ago, I made studies through the iron wire there looking at the auras, but they were not the worst cases. A friend of mine introduced me to the senior physician, a skeptical man. I told him that I wished to observe the auras of his patients. He looked at me as a being worthy of uh, incarceration, as a lunatic. Then at last he decided that he would let me see of his patients. At last, attendants brought in a very sick woman indeed. She was a terrible looking woman. Her eyes rolled and her teeth ground together, and hair stood out like devilish flames around her head. It really was a fearful sight, but it was nothing to what I saw in the invisible world. I saw the soul of a woman right out of her body in a wild struggle with the dark shadow who tried to get possession of the body. All around was in a whirl and in disharmony. Eventually, the woman was taken away, and I told the doctor that woman could not be cured because she was indeed the victim of demonic possession. So, we will bring this particular lesson to a close with the remarks that what this very talented lady of Yugoslavia has seen, you also can see with practice, with perseverance, and with faith. Remember, Rome was not built in a day. A doctor or a lawyer is not made overnight. They have to study, succeed, and so have you. There is no easy, no painless way out.